Count money, man. Stack riches. Try and told him I'm a beast, bud.
What's up, gang? Welcome back to another episode of the GRINDcast. Get ready. It's a new day, and I got my man. We have Pastor Stephen Chandler in the house down there in Ravens country, down there in Maryland, soon to come your way, PG County. Get ready for an absolute beast in and out of the church. Stephen Chandler is getting ready to build a church in PG County. Can't wait to hear all about it. You've even in the short period of time in the last couple of years I've known you, I've watched your growth in your expansion with Union, right? It's Union Church. And how many churches do you have currently right now?
So there's currently 3 locations in the Maryland area, and then we're opening our 4th February 6th, coming up in just a few weeks.
February 6th, and the fourth one, that's in PG County?
PG County. We're coming down DC. Here we go.
Right, DC coming your way. We got friends. I know I got listeners on here in that area. They educated me on that area. That's why I think I surprised you. I think that is known as the, in America, I think that's the is it the wealthiest African American community in the state or in the region or in the country?
It's top 2 probably for the last 10 plus years. So it's been number 1 or number 2 for the last 10 years of wealthiest African American community. So it's a great place.
Love it. They're gonna love you. I'm excited for you. I'm gonna come down there and visit. I got to visit the Columbia church, and it was rocking. And you had us. You hosted Perm and I, and he brought us in. You know, we got the presidential treatment because we knew you, and we got front row. And Perm don't take them glasses off, whether he's going to heaven or going to church to get some of the Lord. Perm had his sunglasses on in church, and we was vibing in there with you, man. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started as a pastor? I know some of the story, but I'm going to learn a lot more, today with you. I believe, was your dad a pastor?
Yep. So my dad pastored, man, he pastored longer than I've been alive. Probably 37 years he's been a pastor. So he pastored a church for about 15 years. And then in 2010, to make a long story short, my mom was battling cancer. My dad had a business on the side, and he's just like, man, this is a big season right now. And I feel like it's time to pass the church on to you, Stephen. I was 23. I was single. And I was like, never been to seminary. So I'd grown up in church, grown up in a ministry family, but never been a senior pastor. Just not your typical candidate for being the next senior pastor. But it was God's will. Our board of trustees voted me in, and I became a senior pastor January 31st, 2011.
Wow.
Which this year makes 10 years. So we connected with an organization that really coaches you through planting a church from scratch. There's about 50 people in the church at the time. So I went to them. I said, we've been open for a few years, but I think this looks like a church plant or a brand new church to me. What would it look like for us to kind of relaunch? So we spent about 9 months kind of rebranding. So we changed the name of the church. We completely renovated the interior. We got rid of our 3-piece suits and our alligator shoes and threw on some jeans and some T-shirts and got a little bit more casual and added some smoke and some lights, trying to make it look like a Snoop Dogg concert. So we did the best we could to keep Jesus and to keep the presence of God, but to make it more relevant, to our generation. So under that new name, we relaunched it as a brand new church in September of 2011. We had 331 people show that first Sunday. So we went from 50 to 331 over the next 8 weeks. And this is my favorite part of the story. Over the next 8 weeks, and I always say this had nothing to do with God. It was my expert leadership. I grew that church from 331 people to 70 people in 8 weeks. And I'm like, man, by the end of this year, we're going to be the fastest closing church in the history of America. This is not looking good.
Big culture shift. Big culture shift.
Yeah, well, big culture shift, but also later I learned that was kind of just normal, that whatever you launched with, you have a lot of well-wishers, family that comes in from out of town and all that. and you'll probably retain about 50% of that.
Okay.
So by the end of the first year, we were 150 people. Second year, 250, third year, 350. And we just grew, real slow. I thought we were going to be 1,000 after year one. So it was just kind of slow grind type of deal. 7 years in, we're 750 people.
Wow.
And
I'm loving this. There's so much in this. I can't wait to get to it. So
yeah.
7 years in,
so
you're
anyway,
at 700 people. How many years in? 7 years in?
7 years.
Okay.
7 years. So that's really when it popped. And doubled every year since then for the last 3 years. And we went from about 700 members to right now, there's probably about 4,500 members just in the last 3 years. And it's been a roller coaster, to say the least. That's a drive-by.
Wow. Amazing. What do you think? Man, there's a lot in that. So the first is, there's a difference between the alligator shoes and the hoodies and the smoke.
Yep.
And so there's a little bit of all right, we're going to change the culture up a little bit. So there's probably some lessons in there that you've learned that you could teach some folks. And then your ambition as a young man, coming out in your mind, probably thinking, we're going to go from 150 people to 1,000 people, overnight. We're going to be at 2,000 people overnight. And it's a 7-year, journey in that process. What would you say that you can give to people that you learned, in that beginning phase and in that 7-year process? Because building a church is similar, and we got listeners in all different walks of life. We got professional mixed martial artists and athletes and entrepreneurs and church folk and gangsters. We got a bunch of folks listening to the GRINDcast.
Come on now, I love the gangsters. Let's do it.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the smoke and the jeans and the hoodies for a second. Similar to your industry, people have a preconceived idea of what church is. And for the typical person that does not go to church, their idea of church is it's going to be long, it's going to be boring, and they're going to tell me how horrible a person I am. And I'm like, I don't got to go to church for that. I can know I'm a bad person at home. I don't need to, go through all the exercises just for that. So we found that if we don't do something to instantly tell people this is not what you think church is, that will lose them before they even come through the door. Like probably even in your industry with insurance, people probably think, oh, you only need insurance when you're like just about to die. Like that's the only time you need to even think about it. So half of your work is just re-educating people on what it is. And for us, we're like, man, we got to help a 24-year-old to understand that, man, church has something to offer you that will transform your entire life. And it's not just for your grandma or your uncle or whatever. So when people come in, they saw a pastor at that time that was 24 in jeans and a hoodie. They're completely caught off guard because it's not what they would expect from a church. And now I have your attention, at least you're listening. And I got about 60 minutes to convince you that this is what you need in your life that's going to change everything for you. Love it.
Love it. Yeah, very similar to us. I remember, now we've been around a while, so people are used to us. But when I was first starting out as a business owner, I was one of the younger ones. I was 24 years old and shifted that culture also from, people think insurance, it's like really quiet and tight and you got to wear a suit. And I changed that culture to having a little bit of music and having dress down days, and you can come in casual and, be in a hoodie and still protect and serve people and build an organization. And from there, so you went from that to a 7-year process of going, from where you were to 700 people. Talk to me about that, because that's kind of like building a business, just building a business for and with Jesus, So that process of going from where you were to 700 people on that journey, what was in your mind? How did you handle it? Didn't go as fast as you thought it was going to go and grow in the first year, and those expectations as a young person with all the ambition. How did you handle that? What did you learn from that in that journey?
Man, it was crazy. I thought we were going to be 1,000 people after like year one. So I'm expecting 1,000. I'm looking at 150 and I'm like, boy, this is not good at all. And then for 7 years, just slow growth. And it was humbling. It was really, it started off with the, hey, you're not as good as you think you are. and that you have a lot to learn and you have a lot to just grow and develop it. There was about a 2-year period from year 3 to year 5 that we did not grow at all. We hit about 400 and then we just stalled out for 2 years straight. And I'm talking about thoughts of quitting, thoughts of maybe I don't have what it took.
Wow.
So I really had to conquer kind of just that inner conversation of, hey, are you called to do this or not? Is this what God's called you to do? And are you doing it to hit your goals? Are you doing it because, man, this is what I'm supposed to do and I'm just not going to quit? And then really the biggest thing that I learned when we had a church of 150, it was a church of 150 because I was a leader of 150. And if I wanted 300 people, I had to double my leadership ability. And if I wanted 600, I had to double my leadership ability. There's a crazy interview, bro. You got to watch it. It's between Kobe Bryant and Nick Saban, coach of Alabama. You catch it on YouTube.
Love them both. Can you?
Oh, it was. I mean, two of them.
Okay.
Two beasts. Anyway, Kobe goes rookie year. He's not getting any playing time on the Lakers. And he says his whole family says, man, you need to demand a trade. You don't deserve this. They're treating you wrong. Kobe said, no, I need to get better. Because if I get better, they can't help but play me. And if I'm not any better, then they don't need to play me. And I think that's really what it is sometimes we want to blame the economy. We want to blame our community. We want to blame where we are or blah, 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 blah. And the reality is, hey, somebody else figured it out. Somebody else is winning in the exact same place where you said you can't win. So the bottom line is, the harsh reality is, man, we just got to get better. We got to be better leaders, better communicators, better visionaries. Yep. If you own the losses, then you'll get to winning eventually.
If you own the losses, you'll get to winning eventually. What do you think you did to start to raise your leadership? So you said, well, I took it on me that if I wanted a church of 1,000, I wanted to go from 150 to 300. It wasn't just that. I had to grow myself in order to handle all that. Was there anything specific other than going through the natural process of experience? Is there anything that you think you did to raise your leadership level?
Absolutely. So I preached a message about 3 weeks ago, and the big phrase from the message is, you can't have what you can't see. And if you can't see it, you'll never be able to attain it. So from day one to where I am today, I would always find somebody that was 2 or 3 steps ahead of me, and I would study every inch of their life. So when I had 150 people, I would get around a pastor that had a church of 300 or 500. And I'm telling you, I want to know what time he wakes up in the morning. I want to meet his staff and figure out what type of team he has around him. I want to know what his schedule is like, what his prayer life is like, how does he prepare his messages, how does he manage his I want to know everything there is to know about him or her and apply those things to my life. So a lot of people bash social media and they've demonized comparison. And they're like, man, you shouldn't compare yourself to other people. Well, comparison has been almost 100% of where all of my growth has come from. I've just found people that are better than me, learned everything that I can learn about why they're winning, and apply it to my life.
Wow. I love that. And so you're coming in and you're looking for the details. That's something people could miss. You're looking at when what their prayer time looks like, digging in what they're doing with their family, what time they're waking up. You're coming with specific questions and stuff. It sounds like to pick their brain and to pull things, out of that process. And then all of a sudden, from year 7 to year 10, you go from 700 people to 4,000, people, what it would look like overnight, in that journey of like, man, all of a sudden you just must have woke up one day and it looks beautiful and it looks sexy and you're popular and everybody's listening to your messages, but they missed all that process, that struggle, that grind, that self-improvement, the self-doubt of there's this moment where you didn't grow, for a little while, and you hit that place and that's where most people jump off. That's the ship. That's the separator. That's where most people have to go through that, and people start to jump off. And so you're thinking, man, is this for me? Is it me? Am I cut out for this? Should I quit this? What did you do other than, it sounds like you just reattach and checked yourself on your mission. Any advice to people when they hit that moment in building something, that you're going to have those moments? You're going to have those moments if you're building something where you start to have that struggle, you start to have that question on yourself, or you don't have the growth or the performance that you want immediately in that moment, what did you do to talk yourself into the next phase and out of quitting, in anything that we could give to people out there on the grind?
Yeah. So I'm going to make you laugh. I did play football. It was middle school, but who's counting, right? But man, every time my coach would get ticked off, he'd be like, man, take a lap and run until I remember you exist. So man, sometimes we were running for like an hour straight. And in that, I learned, like, you're going to get the cramps, you're going to be in pain, all that other good stuff. So you could either stop, get yelled at, and have to do push-ups, or you could just turn your brain off and just put one foot in front of the other and just keep moving. And I think in those seasons when life isn't going as fast as you want it to go, when you're not winning the way you wanted to win, I've learned kind of just turn your brain off and just dominate the next day. Don't worry about, the year-end goal. Don't worry about the end of the month goal. Let me just dominate Tuesday. And if I could dominate Tuesday, go home, go to sleep, wake up and dominate Wednesday, and not really think too much, but just give it 100% and then go to sleep and do it all over again, you'll step back and you'll realize, wait, I am making progress. It may not be the progress that I want to make, but I'm moving this ball down the field. And what I've learned the hard way is, you dominate every day, you will get to the day where that thing grows by 10 times in 1 week. Like you'll get to the exponential growth if you just focus on the incremental win after win after win.
Fire. I got a lot of young people in our organization, and I try to tell them, now that I've been at it for 16 years, about the process. It may take you a few years to have that pop to 4,500 people in your church or 45 people on your team. What advice would you give to young people out there listening that are on the hustle, on the grind, building something, specifically the young folks, young people? What advice would you give to those people building something?
I would say two things. Three. One is you got to work. Like it's not that deep. Like you got to work. Right. I mean, a lot of times, a lot of my analogies are sports, but you'll look at a LeBron, a Kobe, a Tom Brady. Let me tell you this about Tom Brady. So he wins his first Super Bowl. And I don't know if y'all know the Tom Brady story. He comes off the bench, taking over from Drew Bledsoe. Drew Bledsoe never gets his job back. Tom's in there. Tom wins his first Super Bowl. They go to Disneyland, have the parade and all that. The day after Disneyland, Tom Brady's at a high school in Florida practicing on the field 2 days after he just won the Super Bowl. And they're like, reporters find out, they go out there, they're like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you not celebrating? Why are you practicing? He said, man, I missed 2 passes in the Super Bowl. And if I had hit those passes, the game would have been that close. I got to get better. Sometimes we see people's talent and we don't realize that even though they're talented, they have a work ethic that passes everybody else. Like you just don't get past the fact of, man, I'm going to have to work if I'm going to be able to take hold of that which I want. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you got to have a vision of where you want to go. Vision of the business you want to build, the marriage that you want to have, the life that you want, and keep that vision in front of you. It may be pictures on the wall. It may be that the friends you keep have the same vision that you have, so you're constantly talking about it. But you got to keep your eyes locked on why you're going through the pain that you're going through. Because, hey, to be successful, you're going to go through pain. But a lot of people lose their why. And when you lose the why to your pain, you are going to give up on that pain as quickly as possible. Here's something that a lot of people don't think about. It's a marathon, not a sprint. A lot of people can endure pain. They can grind for 3 months, for 6 months. Try 3 years or 6 years. And if you're going to grind that long, you're going to have to learn how to step back and how to breathe and how to relax and how to enjoy life. And hey, I'm going to work Monday through Friday, But Friday night, I'm going to go hang out with some friends. We're going to laugh. We're going to have a great meal. We're going to enjoy. I'm going to get my mind off of things. So when I come back to it, I'm fresh. A lot of people, they either have no work ethic or they're workaholics, and they don't know how to spend time with family, how to work out, how to take care of themselves mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And then they burn out and they get really kind of unhealthy on the inside, and then they're not able to finish the race. So really, I heard this kind of thought. You got that boxer who punches himself out in the first round. He's just swinging for the fences. Next thing you know, he has nothing left in the tank, and he's done by the third round. Then you have that boxer who's a little bit more strategic. He's looking for his openings. He's looking for his moments. He's looking for when I'm going to give you that flurry, and then I'm going to have that moment where I'm going to step back and kind of ease back a little bit. That's kind of what the grind is. You're not grinding 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You got to have that strategy of, I know when I got to put those 12-hour days in, and I know when I just need to close my computer and go to bed, and I'm going to start again tomorrow.
Wisdom right there. I got a bunch of those little nuggets you threw out that I want to break down. So you mentioned a vision of what marriage you want to have. You mentioned starting a church. You weren't married, and now you're currently married and have a beautiful family. New child was born, and it's been amazing to see what you and Zai have built. What advice would you give for people overall, men in their marriage? You know, what advice, marital advice, would you give to the male listeners out there?
So here's a big deal that people don't realize. And you know, I'm a pastor, so I'm always going to come from God's word. Next to giving your life to Jesus, who you marry is the number one factor to your success. I don't care how gifted and what work ethic you have. If you marry the wrong person, it will all be destroyed. Now, if you marry the right person, they will make you 10 times better than you could ever be by yourself.
Wow.
And I think male and female, especially, you know, we're grinders. We love to win. We love to build businesses and churches and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes we get so consumed in what we're building that we don't spend the right attention on our relationships, understanding that they play as much a factor as anything else. So my advice would be, hey, it's the biggest decision you're going to make. And if you make it right, it's going to be the factor to your success. And if you don't, it's going to be the factor to your failure.
You mentioned, you know, looking at it as a marathon versus just a sprint, and knowing when you need to go 7 days a week, when you need to grind, and when you need to pull back. How have you learned to keep balance, you know, as a father and as a husband and as a pastor? You know, you wear a lot of hats, you know. How have you learned to find that rhythm, and how did you learn in the process? Because, you know, right now, even though you're building, you're expanding, you're moving, you got a new house coming up, you got a new church coming up. So you're still hustling, you're still grinding, but also it's probably looks different. The grind that you're focused on right now looks different now than it did probably 10 years ago, 8 years ago. Yeah. And a pastor could look at you right now, if they're trying to look at you and say, I want to be where Pastor Stephen Chandler's at. And they look at your life now and they think, man, I should have that overnight. There was some other sacrifices and grind that needed to happen. How did you keep the balance in the beginning? How do you keep it now?
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest factors is I married a woman who was called to the grind.
Marry a woman called to the grind. That's my girl right there. That's my type of girl.
So that was I was not going to marry a girl who didn't love the church. And I wasn't going to marry a girl who didn't love building, because she was going to complain for the whole journey.
Come on. So I keep it real with us right now. That's the truth.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You marry someone that just wants to live a good life, but they don't want to work. My goodness, you're going to be miserable. So what happens is when I'm exhausted, Zaya is the one who's pushing it. And then when she's exhausted, I'm the one who's pushing it. And when I'm out there running, she's home with the kids, loving on them, encouraging them. And she'll say, hey, man, Roman needs a little bit more of your attention. Can you take him out and just spend some time with him? Or, man, Zoe just had a great, report at school. Can you get her a gift on the way home, or whatever it may be? So it's that teamwork where because she appreciates what I'm doing, she's watching my back and seeing my blind spots and helping me be present in the home instead of resenting me because I'm out, neglecting the family or whatever, which someone who's not called to do what we do would say that same thing. And then I'm also able to say, okay, babe, no, I'll stay home with the kids. You go home and preach. You go out and preach at that church, or you go to this meeting or whatever. So really, it's that teamwork and us being able to watch each other's backs that helps us to be present in the places that we need to be present and not have this resentment of, man, they're always gone or they're never helping me out or whatever it may be. So you and your spouse having a unified vision on what your family is called to do and what your family is called to build is a big, big factor. I'll give you one more, and this is me being a pastor. So you got 10 commandments. Most people know them. Don't lie, don't steal, don't cheat, don't use God's name as a cuss word, all that other good stuff. One of the 10 commandments is honor the Sabbath and keep it holy. And that means that there needs to be one day out of the week that you're not working, that you're resting. Now, I know I'm talking to business folks and I'm a pastor, so I'm stepping on some toes and all that other good stuff. But I've kept that commandment as religiously as I keep don't kill. So for me, I'm a hustle and grind for 6 days out of the week. And there's going to be one day where I'm forcing myself. I'm not checking emails. I'm not sending reports. I'm not trying to get this done. This is my recovery day. This is my family day. And surprisingly enough, it's not Sunday because I work on Sundays. So right. I'm preaching, I'm in meetings and all that. So I have one day a week. I go on date night. I spend time with my kids. I'll play golf. This is just my breathe day. And then the other 6 days we're running.
Back to the grind. What sacrifices have you made building the church, to where it is today? It looks beautiful, and I didn't really go all the way in, but as you guys, I want you to check out my friend Stephen Chandler's stuff. He got an unbelievable podcast. Check into his church. I mean, his messages are fire. I steal some of his stuff. I'm use him in some of our meetings, so you might catch me spitting some fire and say, "Nah, that ain't yours no more." And I was getting all the credit for his juice, but just absolute fire. It's beautiful to watch what you've built. It's exciting. It's exciting to see what you've built because you're so young and just now really scratching the surface of what God has called for you, and anybody around you can feel that and know that, man, about you. People could look at it and think that it just looks easy. Even the day that, that I was there, I mean, it was slam packed. I know what it's like. And man, you got a nice rhythm too. You got great people around you and it looks easy, but we know it's not easy. What were some of the sacrifices that you've made early on and that you maybe now continue to make in order to take the church and take people to the next level?
I'll give you a couple and things that people don't think pastors should talk about, but that's okay. I don't care. One of the biggest sacrifices was financially. First 3, 5, 7 years of the church, my income was not what I wanted it to be in terms of the life that I wanted to provide for my family. And it was intentional. I don't set my own salary. I have a board of trustees that set my salary, but I can tell them, hey, don't make it above this. And I intentionally said, hey, I don't want to take a lot of resources out of the church in the beginning because I want to use that money for marketing. I want to use that money to connect with new people. I want to use that money to grow this thing. And if we will sacrifice in the beginning and reinvest to impact people's lives, the harvest on the backside is going to be crazy. And I mean, at this point, book deals coming in and all this other kind of stuff, it's getting crazy now. But I see so many people, they want to live like a king in year one.
Preach, come on, preach, teach.
And I'm like, no, man, that's not the time to be flossing and living like a king and balling out and all that other good stuff. That's the time to reinvest into your dream and to make sure that it becomes what you want it to become. And then after you're sure this thing's going to run for the next 25 years, then you can enjoy the fruits of life a little bit more. So that's one sacrifice. The second really big sacrifice is you got to give up people's opinion of you. You're not going to be successful and you're not going to be a great leader and be a people pleaser at the same time. The reality is, if you're a leader, you see things that other people cannot see. So they're going to call you crazy. They're going to call you unreasonable. They're going to call you, overbearing. You're too intense or whatever it may be. And I see so many people that they're paralyzed by the opinion of other people. And hear me, bruh, when I started this church 10 years ago, 0 of my friends would come to this church. They're just like, nah, you're too young. It ain't going to work. Blah, 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 blah. All this other good stuff. Fast forward 10 years, they're here at the church with their wife and their kids and all that other good stuff. And if you live your life based on what people tell you you can or you cannot do, you will be paralyzed and not move forward. So you got to be okay with people laughing at you or people not celebrating you or whatever else it may be.
Wow. 2 huge nuggets that apply in so many different arenas. The upfront sacrifice and reinvestment in no matter what it is that you're trying to search out greatness for is huge. And that, I think that's another big one. I think so many people allow their dreams to be let go because they're waiting for other people's approval. And as soon as they, like you said, you're going to be told that you're crazy. Anybody that goes outside of the norm and goes to accomplish anything great, people from the outside looking in, look at them like they're crazy. All the main inventions and a lot of the great things that have been accomplished happened by crazy people, what people thought were crazy people. And it's not easy to learn to block out that noise. And even though you're such a good person, man, you're a great person, and your mission is great. I'm sure even the pastor has to have a couple critics and a couple haters.
Oh yeah.
How have you been able to handle the critics or the hate? Have you had any haters or critics, or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm just making assumptions.
From day one. I mean, listen, you're not going to do anything great without people hating on you. It's just that, stuff you can't say as a pastor, but that's all right. The average person sucks and they want you to live.
Come on.
And they want you to be just like them. And the second you dare to want more out of life than they do, you're a sellout. Who do you think you are? And, blah, 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 blah. Here's a principle that I've lived my life on. I will not address or acknowledge or fight anybody that cannot keep me from my next goal. If you're just talking, but you're not standing.
That's fire. Wait, rewind that one for me. Man. Go ahead, because that alone right there is huge. Say that one more time.
I will not fight, acknowledge, or even deal with any hater or any opposition that cannot block me from my next goal.
Powerful.
Because time is precious. And the time that I take to acknowledge your foolishness is time that I'm losing investing in my family or investing in my dream. I don't got time to respond to your comments on Instagram. I don't got time to email you back. Come on now. I'm sure you've had a couple friends from your past. Man, we need to grab lunch and clear the air. No, I'm not grabbing lunch with you. The air is clear. I'm breathing just fine. I don't got time to be with you. You know what I mean? It's a sideways energy and it's a detour. And I find so many people fighting battles that don't have anything to do with the dream that they have. So if you're not standing between me and what God's called me to do, I'm not dealing with you. Now, if you are standing between me and what God has called me to do, you are going to get every ounce of Stephen Chandler coming at you at a velocity you can't even comprehend. I do need to clarify, because I am a pastor. I do not throw hands. I'm not going to fight you. I'm not going to cuss you out. I'm going to stay within the laws of our country. But I tell you right now, I'm sending every attorney, everything I can at you, because you are not about to block me from what God has for me.
Powerful, man.
Not that you don't fight, but pick your battles. A lot of people don't pick their battles.
Makes a lot of sense. A lot of juice in there. I'm learning as we go here too. Let me ask you, our relationship started, I was lucky to meet you at a John Maxwell conference and event. And since then the relationship has grown. Yeah. I believe it was that what the one in London where we met, or was it the one in Florida?
No, man, I'm not lucky enough to go to London with y'all. It
Florida.
was Fort Lauderdale.
West Palm or Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, West Palm.
Yep. So Maxwell you've spent a lot of time with Maxwell. What would you say is one or two things that you've learned from Maxwell that you think has made a huge difference, in your leadership level?
I think the first thing is the power. He uses this phrase, the power of compounding consistency. So we all know how investment works. You put money in investment accounts, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, whatever. In the beginning, it's a small amount. In the end, your money is doubling almost every 5 to 7 years, but it took time for it to get to the place where it's doubling. And what he said, at the age of 25, I committed to getting better every single day. He said, I'm just going to get better every single day. And he said, from 25 to 50, I was getting better, but nobody was able to see it. Then he said, from 50 to 75, all of a sudden, everybody saw all that I had put into me the 25 years prior. And he said, so many people, they're just not consistent in the every single day. I'm just going to get better, just get better, just get better. And it's like rolling a boulder up a hill. At some point, you get to the top of it and it comes flying down. And so he said this. He said, when you're young, people think that you're worse than you actually are because you don't have the momentum of consistency. But he said, when you get to a certain level, people think you're better than you actually are because you've had all that consistency that's racking up behind you. So I think really just being committed to getting better every single day and being able to see him live that out probably was the greatest impact on my life. The second thing is what he just said here in Nashville, where we were down there. And he said, say yes, tell the world, and then figure it out. And he said, so many people
right up your alley,
so
right there.
much.
That's right up your alley.
Oh yeah. He says so many people waste so much time playing life safe and having to have it all figured out. And man, I don't want to make a mistake. And he's like, man, forget making this mistake. Fail forward. Just say yes, tell everybody you're going to do it, and then go figure it out. And you know me, I just love that risk taking. I'm a jump and then figure out if I got a parachute on. Like, let's just go for it, man. Life is short. So make the most of it.
Why do you think so many people don't make that commitment to consistently get better, to roll that boulder, the 25-year process to become an overnight, success? What do you think stops folks that have the potential and ability to be great? They have greatness in them and within them, and they're called even to do something, but they give up on that journey somewhere in the day-to-day process, the day-to-day grind of getting better. Why do you think that is, or what do you think people could do to switch the way that they're looking at what they're looking at to bring it out of them?
I would say two things. One's the problem and one's the solution. The problem is they don't have a vision for their life. And the solution is they don't have the right mentors. Like, if you've never seen somebody be consistent and grind, then you have no concept of what it looks like. And I think for me, the life that I live is because of the life I've seen my mentors live. And that's what greatness looks like. Oh, that's what greatness does. Oh, that's how they approach every single day. And I'm not even gonna lie to you. There was a season in my life, bro, like up until probably about 20 to 21, I wasn't a bum, but I was probably just left of one. Like, I mean, no work ethic. No, I was just, what's the easiest way I can get by? I was not a hustler whatsoever. But then I started seeing people that I wanted to be like. And I started to look at their life, and I saw this huge gap between how they lived and how I lived. And I started the process of closing that gap. And I think so many people, they just don't have a vision of what their life can be. They don't have a vision for greatness. And they don't have a vision of, hey, I know someone who's consistently excellent. Like John Maxwell will say that. John Maxwell's father, if I'm not mistaken, was the chancellor of a university. Like, this man ran an entire college, and he saw his dad consistently be great every single day. And he's walking in those footsteps. And not all of us have a dad like that or whatever it may be. But between podcasts and YouTube and all this other kind of stuff, we have access to great people. And we need to be intentional about connecting ourselves so we can see what greatness looks like.
It sounds like, you know, and that's encouraging to people to hear. Hey, 19 to 21, I was kind of looking for the easy route and wasn't a hustler, because you're a hustler now, you're a grinder now, and you're all over the place, and you've accomplished so much in such really a little short period of time. But a couple times you've alluded to finding someone that was where you wanted to be, studying that, breaking it down, and then adopting some of those habits that would help you turn out the way that you know, the way that you wanted to turn out. So it sounds like that was a very important part of your journey, was finding someone that was where you wanted to be. But then it seems like you took it a step little bit further than just finding someone and looking up to them and say, oh man, I like that. But it sounds like you were always digging deep to find out what were their habits, what were the things that they were doing, in order to notice and have the wisdom to apply those things a little bit to your life. Is that true?
I would say that has been the greatest factor. Different people around me, they may disagree. I don't think that I am the most gifted, like uniquely gifted person you'll ever meet. But what I am is I know how to learn what I don't know. I know how to find the person who knows something that I don't know. I know how to get out of them what I want. And for a lot of people, they want to know what someone does. I don't just want to know what you do. I want to know why you do it. Because I may not be able to do what you do, because I may not have the same skill set. You may be in a different industry than me. You may have different resources or different opportunity. So I may not be able to mimic the exact what you're doing. But if I know why you're doing it, I can apply that principle to my life. And I may have to tailor it a little bit for my skill set and my resources and all that. But if I know your why, I can implement that in my life. So I'm looking for people's principles, not just their practices, their why, not just their what.
I love it. I love it, man. Thank you for sharing all this wisdom and sharing all this juice. You were mentioning that, you know, now it may not be your father, it may not be your neighbor, it may not be a direct person that's right in front of you, but we have access to different people via podcasts, books, and YouTube and things like that. I want to make sure that people get exposed to my friend, to you. I want more people to follow you and learn from you, because I know how much you're going to impact their life. How would people find you or connect with you on all your platforms that you're on and see some of your messages and what you got going on?
Good deal. I'm a preacher, so I'm not going to answer your question. Before I get to that, I just want to say, Simon, man, you inspire me. I'm grateful to be your friend. And I know you know this, but dude, you are a unicorn. You're one in a million. And anybody who's connected to you and gets to watch your life, man, I've learned so much from just being around you. I can't even thank you enough. So grateful for you. But theunionchurch.com is where they can connect with the church. Stephen R. Chandler, that's Stephen with a PH. Don't worry what Steph Curry says. It's Stephen with a PH. Stephen R. Chandler is Instagram, StephenRChandler.com. You can catch me on there. And then literally just Google Stephen Chandler and it'll pop up.
Love it. And and he's verified. The young folks, this is a big deal. You got the blue check mark on Instagram, y'all. You got to go follow my man. He's the real deal. He's a celebrity over there. And speaking of which, and verified, I want to verify that pretty soon coming up, we have your team versus my team. We got the Ravens coming up versus the Browns, and I want to make a friendly wager with you, even though I'm an underdog. Browns ain't supposed to win this, but I'd like to bet you dinner and 10 push-ups on the Browns if you would take that friendly wager, my friend. What do you think?
Sounds soft. Dinner and 100 push-ups.
Dinner and 100 push-ups. Okay, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's do it.
All right, I love it. Looking forward to seeing you again soon, man. I love you. Always appreciate any time I can have an excuse to hang out with you, man. Thanks for cutting out some time for our folks on the GRINDcast, and thanks to everybody for tuning in to another episode of the GRINDcast. Get ready, it's a new day.
Count money, man.
So thanks for joining us again on another episode of the GRINDcast. If you're looking for extra help, extra mentorship, or you know somebody that does, just this past year, my partner Marcus Smith and I, who was the guy that started me into business, called my resume, and was one of my first mentors. My partner Marcus and I opened up Cash Money Mentoring, something that would provide an affordable way, for people at all different walks of life, different businesses, different stages of their life and career, for us to be able to in-person live mentor folks and help them. I got so many messages on Instagram and social media, so many people asking for time, and I hated that I had to say no, that we found a way to say yes. And so every month we're spending a few hours with people. So head over to cashmoneymentoring.com. Maybe look at it as a Christmas gift, because we know Christmas is coming up. And thank you, as always. Thank you for the time that you've invested with us, and let's get it.